Good? All right. Good evening. Time is 6:30, October 25th, 2022, Abington Conservation Commission meeting. First item is discussion on building permit for the property located at 380 Brockton Ave. You want to just get up to the podium and state your name and address?
Hey, my name is Gleetson. The address is 380 Brockton Avenue.
Last name?
Oh, Gatto. Sorry, Gleetson Gatto.
So I'll just give a rundown. So basically, last year on this time, we voted, we approved a notice of intent, wrote up an order of conditions for a project on this property. Since that time, the property has been sold twice. And before I signed the building permit, I just wanted to make sure that you, as the new property owner, acknowledge that there is an open order of conditions, that you're going to follow the order of conditions, and that the plan is not changing, because if the plan changes, then we
No.
wouldn't be able to have to file a brand-new notice of intent.
Yeah, we tend to keep everything the same according to what was filed, and we acknowledge the order condition we're going to follow.
We just need to check on the replication area.
Okay.
Make sure that that's still, that you own that piece of property to do that. And
Okay.
once you can prove that,
Yeah, according to I just checked what was sent by my attorney.
Yep.
So the size of the lot there that was registered, it's a little bit over a half acre, so
Okay.
you should include that piece of land
Okay.
there in the back, so.
and like I said, I know one of the orders, like you, Jean, were you at that meeting or no?
Yes, I was.
I know one of the orders was the restoration had to be done, or the replication had to be done before construction
correct.
starts.
That is, yep.
Which now, this late in the season, wouldn't be till the spring.
And if we think we can get it done afterwards, do I need to go back here and
if you-
ask
yeah.
you? Okay. All right.
Yeah, because growing season ended, so, I mean,
Yeah.
you take a risk investing in that kind of money to put the plants.
Yeah, I think I'll take a look at it, but I think we can, a small machine or even getting there by foot and getting done afterwards, the construction is done, at least we can get ahead and start working on the foundation and stuff like that, so I'll double check.
Yeah, Tony can
Yeah.
get you a copy of the restoration plan, and if you want to meet out on the site someday,
That'd be
take
great.
a look at it and get you going.
All right.
So the plants are staying exactly the way it was before, and there's going to be the retaining wall in the back all the way across? Okay. Okay.
All right,
All right.
thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, next up, public complaint on sediment and possible filling of wetland at 18 Park Ave and 202 Center Ave. Now, this was on the agenda at the last meeting. Mr. Dombrowski sent me an email on October 13th with a little summary of that area, and he's also emailed me a plan, which you guys have a copy of. Doesn't appear to be any wetlands in the area, and also appears that it's not a stream, it's just classified as a ditch.
I also have on my plan here that there's a one.
Ms. Casey, can you just get up to the podium?
Also on this plan that I brought in, also says that it's a ditch.
But this is, this was done in 1985, I think.
Yeah, where's the date on this one?
It only shows part of it because it was to do with, on Center Ave. They wanted to put, at the time, the people that were living there wanted to put a parking, like tie their whole backyard into parking, and they didn't get it, so that's why the drainage is showing, and it says ditch. so.
Yep.
So that means they're gonna like go through the whole thing and make sure it's flowing? Yes?
Oh, say that again?
Is that, they're gonna clean it out so it's flowing all the way down to where it was going out to the pond?
Who's cleaning it out?
The town of Abington?
The bins around it.
Oh, the catch basin, so the DPW is gonna clean the catch basins,
Just the catch basin, which is just there, not the ditch going out?
just the catch basins.
So how do I get the ditch? The ditch is the problem. The water's flowing and not going anywhere. It's not, how do I do that? Who do I talk to?
I guess we still don't know if that's a town easement, right?
That I'm still waiting. I was told it was an easement when we moved in, I have not found the paper, I have not found anything on there, and like I said, I spoke to the real estate agent, and he said that unfortunately, they don't save papers back that long ago, because we were told it was an easement from the town. And the town used to clean it out all the time. It was always like, dug out and everything else, but now it's not done.
Yeah, because where there's no wetlands over there, we have no jurisdiction, we can't.
So just cleaning out the catch basin, which I do every winter because nobody ever cleans it. I mean, the leaves fill up. I've asked them to take the trees down so that, like that are right there.
No, they're
No, no.
gonna actually take the grate, the metal piece that's on top of on the road.
Yeah.
They'll take that off, and inside there, on a normal catch basin, it's called a sump. So where the pipe comes out of the catch basin to that ditch, below that pipe is a 4-foot sump. So what that does, that's supposed to collect all of the sand, dirt, grit, everything that's on the road that,
Which it hasn't done in years.
It
'cause
probably hasn't
it's
been cleaned,
all-
and that's
But that's
why-
what's filled in, is all the sand. It's just totally sand. It's.
right. And
Yeah.
Okay,
that's probably what it is. I mean, I can't be 100% sure, but
But
that's
that's
probably
not
what it is.
solving my problem because the water is now going to come down and still not going anywhere. It's not flowing all the way to the pond.
right. And did you get a copy of Mr. Dombrowski's letter?
I just got,
Yeah, Tony.
Okay, so the copy of the letter says the catch basins are under the control of the Abington DPW, and there should be documentation that the town has a drainage easement covering the area. If no easement can be found, it is the town of Abington who is the party responsible for the maintenance of the drainage.
so I call the highway department out there?
So what I would do myself personally, if it were me, I mean, it's not a conservation issue, but with this letter from Mr. Dombrowski, obviously there was some documentation and some mapping that was done in 1989. So I would try following up with the DPW. And if you get nowhere, then I would suggest you go to the town manager and try to get this sorted out with him, because it's unfair with the amount of rain that you've been getting.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
been getting.
Well, if we had a hurricane, it's
Yeah.
going nowhere. It just totally filled in.
I mean, it's an
Did any
old,
of you have a chance to go down and see it, walk through it?
I did not have a chance this week, but maybe once towards the end of this, well, let me see. Well, how about Saturday? Can I pop by Saturday?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be there, but yes, you
Okay,
can.
what day is good for you? Friday?
Well, Thursday better, but Friday,
Thursday,
try-
okay,
You can
Thursday-
try Saturday, I'll probably be there Saturday.
Thursday is fine. I can come during the day.
Okay.
Okay. What time is good for you?
Well, I'm home at 3, but then I pick up my grandkids in Plymouth, so.
Okay. All right, so if not
Saturday might be
Thursday, then
better.
Saturday, fine.
Yeah.
Or I
But-
could go
Yeah, Saturday.
lunchtime.
Sure.
So
Okay.
Saturday after 11 to 12.
Do you wanna do
whatever-
Saturday after
Whatever's good
11?
for you.
Yeah, I think that
Okay.
would work.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
just that, I mean, he's got some documentation here because he was on the sewer commission at the time, not the sewer commission, but the board for that, and
Mm-hmm.
they had this type of documentation, so I'm sure it's just,
Yeah, it was when we moved in, they said it was dug out from the town, and they were in charge
Yeah.
of it, and like I said, for years they did. Then, next thing I know, I remember calling, and they're like, oh no, conservation came down and said, no, we can't touch it. And it's like,
yeah.
and it's going nowhere now, so it's flowing, it goes all the way down to the end of my yard, and then it stops where the people just moved in, because it's just, building up.
Did you get a copy of his map that was attached with this letter?
I
And it
think
says
so,
right
yes.
on here,
Yeah.
Town of
Yes,
Abington?
yeah.
All right, so I would
It's-
use that documentation and try that way
Right.
with Mr. Stone first, I
You're
think.
talking about this map here, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that goes with his letter.
Okay, good.
It was good, Mr. Dombrowski was very good in sharing this information.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So hopefully I get this taken care of.
And Tony will reach out to you when they're gonna come out. That way, if you're not home,
Say it again?
so you'll know when the catch basins are cleaned out, she'll reach out to you and let you know.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
So that should solve the problem about all the,
Well, that'll solve the
That'll solve
problem.
part of the
Stuff coming-
problem.
New stuff coming in.
but it's still the water that's flowing through
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
going to build up and.
I mean, it
yeah.
sounds
And what
like-
happens is in the summer, if it builds up and does that, my backyard is flooded and I can't even mow my lawn. You
Yeah.
can't play in it, the kids can't do anything in it, it's just like all flooded and,
Yeah, it's kind of like when they clean the edges of the street of the debris so that, like down on Linwood Street and stuff, they have those little
Yeah.
catch basin things.
Like I said, the last time they did it, they used to dig it deep. It was deeper, like, we were worried about people falling in it when the kids were playing. But now, it's like they instead of the last time they came down, they made it wider.
Do you remember when the last time was that they
In
came?
2019.
2019, so someone did maintain the
They
ditch
came in
then.
and they dug it, but they dug it wider, and they made, my land now is
Okay.
eroding It was kind of banked in there before now, so.
So that gives you a starting point, and you
And I
have,
used to have all trees and stuff there. A lot of trees, is like no land, no place for the trees to grow and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
so the bank's eroded.
Yeah, the erosion. so.
Yeah.
All right, well, I thank you very much.
Okay, good luck. Keep us posted.
Thank you.
I will, thank you. I
you.
definitely will.
Saturday.
Thank you,
Yeah, see you Saturday.
thank you. Yep, Saturday sounds good.
Okay.
Always best.
All right, next up, discussion on order of conditions located at 140 Rockland Street. That's you. Okay.
Did you agree I'm ready to go?
Go for it.
You want me to use this, this what this is here for, or we just?
Yeah, you can use that.
Be formal tonight.
I know.
Like the president.
Sean Riley, 500 Washington Street, the attorney representing the property owner Lee Mann, who's with me tonight, along with his engineer Eric Dias of Strong Point Engineering Solutions. And what we were here tonight was just to continue basically our discussion on the order conditions for 140 Rockland Street, based on the subdivision plan that was submitted to you guys and was approved at your order conditions was approved at your October 11th meeting. And then after we left, you guys discussed some of the conditions. Tony had sent me the order to record, and when I looked at it, I had some suggestions to reword some parts of it to kind of clarify it, make it hopefully work better before it goes on record. So I submitted something, which I brought hard copies, if it makes sense. Give you a copy. Just a couple of minor changes, which I think meets with everything you guys wanted to do.
Thank you.
Eugene.
Do you have one more coffee for Dan? Just
Let me check.
sure he'll be here.
Yes, give me a copy. Who's that, Dan?
Dan,
Oh, yeah.
thank you, Mr. Riley.
Certainly, Ms. Adios. Okay, so I put comments in the margin so you could see why I was suggesting certain edits. The first one is kind of commonsensical. The standard condition says that a siltation fence barrier shall be placed on a limit of work line, quote, 20 feet from the wetland edge depth. We suggested that that phrase be replaced with "as depicted on the approved plan," for the simple reason that if you look at the approved plan, if you recall, it's a roadway going in, and the plan shows the siltation barrier is right along the roadway. It's not 20 feet off the roadway. It's not that wide a spot. We can't physically put it 20 feet off. So we suggested the order should say, "as depicted on the plan." Do it the way you approved it. So that was the only correction to that phrase. And then if you flip to page 3,
Sean, do we want to just go through each one at a time and just agree?
however you want to.
Instead of going backtrack after? Do you have comments on that? I've already looked at this, and it makes sense, because they're going to be, we've already approved the plan, and it's less than 20 feet. And if there's other spots, even if you don't put 20 feet, you don't put a set distance, if they go beyond what the plans show, they'd be in violation, and we could issue an enforcement order probably. So I'm fine with it, the way that it's edited.
Right.
Just that one.
Well, we'll do each one, so we don't have to go back
Because
after.
I think the words were, these orders, or these conditions get attached to the order, which then gets recorded at the registry of deeds. And that's what's enforceable. So representing the property owner, I want to make sure we're not walking into a immediate problem.
Right.
And that phrase, it's simple, but it creates an immediate problem. And what we propose, I think, is a solution. All right? Moving to H8. I just inserted the phrase that was identical to the phrase in H2, which was, so H8 would just say, in conjunction with the sale of any property within a resource area before or during construction, the applicants shall submit to the Conservation Commission a signed statement by the buyer that they're aware of the outstanding order of conditions and has received notice under H2 above. There's H2. Because H2
Is on page 2?
H2 is on page 2.
Yes.
H2 says, "This order shall apply to every successor in control." Well, I won't read it out to you, but it's the same phraseology basically, just to be consistent. So, again, if, when it comes time, when Lee sells a lot to, it's going to be to his children, the applicant will submit to the conservation a signed statement from that buyer saying that they have been put on notice of the order. That's all. H9 I suggested to cross out only because the way it's written, it's like almost missing words or something. It says right now, condition numbers sometimes shall apply in perpetuity and shall not expire with the issuance of a certificate of compliance. It's just, what numbers are we talking about? Sometimes shall apply, what does that mean? And I said, if you look at H7 right above it, it already kind of addresses this, that there are certain things that are going to be in perpetuity, like H7, which specifically says the maintenance of the culverts, the maintenance of the detention basins and drainage systems, use of minimum concentrations of fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides. H9 on its own just doesn't tell us...
Very open-ended.
Yeah, it doesn't tell us what to do and what not to do, and doesn't tell you what you can enforce, so I thought it should be stricken, or completely reworded somehow.
If anything, I would, like I said, I know in the special conditions, we had the salt substitute. I would add that under H7, add J1 under H7, so that condition is also,
Yeah, so that's a
Covered.
good idea. So J1 as currently written says, only salt substitute shall be used for ice treatment. What you're saying, Mr. Chairman, is only salt substitute shall be used for ice treatment, and this condition shall remain in perpetuity.
yeah.
We have no objection to that, that's fine. But that's where it's helpful, where it's,
Yep.
specific, we know it, you know it, that's what it is. So I have no problem with that. And then the only other,
Well, I think on H9, excuse me if I'm,
Sure.
if I seem to be correct, but I want to just discuss this with the commissioners. With H9, Kathy had suggested that only because of the fact that we have that outstanding DEP which travels each time the property is sold until it's met its requirement. We couldn't come up with a number, but DEP does have a number on that, and that's the highlighted area, so I think that's why it was put there.
no,
But that's
we
not
issued a
in the-
certificate of compliance for all those old ones.
I understand, but it kept moving forward. Even though DEP from 2005 said this was filled, okay, we closed out that, it moved forward to the next one. We closed out the second one, it moves forward to this one. This is how it works. It just keeps leapfrogging with DEP until that issue gets resolved.
So we don't have an order for it.
But there is
order
no-
to put under.
Okay, so
But what's the issue, though? I don't know,
a wetland was filled, according to DEP, in
Yeah.
2005.
pursuant to that order.
Pursuant to that order,
Yeah.
a wetland was filled, was never replicated. It wasn't, and I understand prior commissions might have just rubber stamped everything or whatever, but DEP isn't satisfied. It still shows on Mass Mapper, if you go to Mass Mapper now,
There's a little yellow area.
that's the area we're talking about. And I know your rain garden is gonna take care of some of it.
Yeah, I thought we had this discussion back on
Yeah.
October 11th.
We did.
We're just discussing the order of
I know,
conditions.
but
We did,
I don't know that,
right, okay.
We're just discussing the order of conditions. We're not
Right.
discussing,
But I think that's why it being as vague as it is, because it's not spelled out in the order of conditions. I know it's vague to you, but, okay.
well, I just don't want all of a sudden get a certified letter in the mail saying, dear
Yeah.
Mr. Mann, 2 years from now, you didn't fill in what that other guy was supposed to do in 2005. We're not responsible for that, and our plan is trying to incorporate everything, bring
Right.
everything up to date, clear the table, moving forward, let's do it right. And that's what this order of conditions, which you approved on October 11th, is doing. All right?
I'm wondering if it's because of, if you look at J5, just leapfrogging ahead.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because there is no new disturbance of any wetland area shall occur due to any future work on the remainder of the property unless first approved. As we were talking about, should we say forever and ever they can't do any work? Is that what you're thinking about?
There was so much discussed that night, and I just remember that,
What does it look like?
I can't see, it's dark. It's on the far
I
side.
know it's not mine.
I can't tell if it's a truck or a car. Does it? Oh,
Oh, good. Someone
So
figured it
you can
out.
all stay right where you are. I think we had a discussion, if you recall, on October 11th, that it was clear to everyone that if and when the houses are built on the two new lots, if those houses or any site work is done within 100
Right.
foot of wetlands or 200 foot of the river, they have to come back to you for lot-specific order
Correct.
conditions. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I think this is one of those, something I've been thinking of for a while is, I think we should look at redoing some of these.
Yep.
Considering we also
Yeah.
have new,
Right.
replication, restoration guidelines.
Yep.
Because I agree that was it H9?
Yes.
Is vague.
It is vague.
We should look at the language and improve it.
Yeah, for everyone's benefit. So for Mr. Mann in this case,
Right.
for the future owner, and for future commissioners. When everyone looks back at this 5 years from now, what was it about?
Right.
But to say that some conditions may or may not be, let's either get rid of that or let's be specific. And in other areas, you are specific, so that's a good thing. So that was just my proposal. H9 just creates confusion, so propose to delete it, but it's up to the board.
So add J1 under H7, delete H9 completely.
What's,
And then next up,
J1 is, the salt substitute one?
yeah,
Yeah.
Which is listed in the handout as J1, right? So it's,
you're right,
it's under
correct.
special conditions.
Yep.
So you would add that language, this condition will remain in effect in perpetuity.
Correct.
Yeah, that's cool.
Completely, yeah.
When just to be clear, the first draft that Tony put together, I updated the numbers so it became more sequential. So we're all looking off my draft right now, so J1 is the ice condition one, right?
Yep.
Okay. On hers, it was, well, I guess it was J1, wasn't it? But then, okay, sorry. Then looking at, again, on the draft, what I listed as J4, only because previously it was 3A, 3B, 3C under section J, I just made them J1, J2, J3. J4 talks about seasonal groundwater elevation shall be determined for the replacement area. If adequate groundwater elevations do not exist, the applicant is required to create a perched groundwater substrate. And as I learned from my engineer friend, that doesn't apply to rain gardens, it applies to replication areas, right? So just delete it. So then that takes us to the new, when I change the sequential numbering, the next J4, so here's where I just updated the wording of your standard E6 wording, because you said you wanted to put in reference to rain garden, obviously, instead of replication. So I put in rain garden. The rain garden construction plan and timetable has been designed by a professional wetlands consultant, approved by the commission, which way that is to be used, take maximum advantage of soil conditions, da-da-da-da-da. Just again, trying to adapt your standard language to something that applies directly to the rain garden that was approved on the plan. Similarly, in J5 and J6 and J7, I put the word rain garden in there. But in 35, I just took the liberty of updating it. I looked at the tape of your meeting, and I couldn't figure out how you were coming up with that number, 2,445 square feet. And it's because that was the initial plan. But when we back and updated everything and came back, the final plan was 2,580 square feet. So I put that in, I just figured that was an oversight. I wanted the order to match the plan. Okay?
It's bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Accuracy is important.
Yeah. And the same thing for J6. Revise the language of E9 so that the wording in J6 applies to rain gardens. So not any real substantive changes, but just more of a drafting so that if the board approves those revisions, I will get an updated version from Tony, attach it to the order of conditions, and we'll get it recorded, and then I'll submit a recorded copy back to Tony for your files and for our files. That's all.
Questions? We already discussed everything. Anybody in the audience? Bring it back to the board. Somebody want to make a motion to approve the revised order of conditions?
I'll make a motion to approve SE 084-559, the revised order of conditions.
We have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Great, and just So for the record, this order of condition will have an issue date of today, right? Because that was your vote,
Yep.
Right.
right? Because we haven't submitted anything to DEP.
I said we'd wait.
Huh?
I said we'd wait, because I knew we had to reword it.
Yeah, I don't need it tonight or tomorrow. I'll work with you and make sure everything gets done at the registry correctly. So thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you in like 5.
Next up is enforcement order discussion on restoration plan located at 0 Hancock Street with possible vote. There's nothing to vote on. Just give us an update, Colin.
Yeah, so I know you...
Name and address.
Colin Havlin, 0 Hancock Street. I know you came out to look at the work that we had done. Nicole and her team, the scientist, did a bunch of work out there, fixed the far area. I'm not sure what it's labeled, but that's all been done. She said that she couldn't get the materials, the plants to do the second section, so she said we're going to do that in the spring.
Okay.
Thank you. From the pictures, it looks very
Yeah,
nice.
they did a great job, yeah.
Yeah. Did you get the land surveyed? I was just curious.
But yeah, the surveyor, that wasn't sent to you guys?
No. I
Can you
don't
get a copy of the survey?
All right, Nicole is supposed to send you guys a bunch of stuff, so
Okay.
I'll make sure she does.
Excellent, thank you. But yes, this looks very
See the
nice.
paint stamps?
And they're staying out of this area, or they're
There was a
riding?
couple tracks right after we did it, but I put
Really?
a bunch more signs up. I know Paul let people know, there's been some posts on Facebook, so
Yeah.
hopefully they don't come out there and rip the signs down.
Hopefully they won't, and they'll see that it's being restored, so.
Yep,
So the sign just say no trespassing?
correct.
Maybe something more substantial than that?
Does-
Well, I did call, so I called Officer Randall from the Environmental Police,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm hoping he's gonna call me back. I have not heard back from him. I called them to see if there's anything they can do from their end to stop trespassing through there. So I've made the steps, he's waiting for his call back, so.
One thing I noticed, I know the silt fence was, when you guys did the restoration in this area, you're supposed to put down the row of 12-inch compost tubing. Any reason why they didn't do it?
Well, when you guys came back there, you said that that was fine, so I do remember that, and then, yeah, I don't know, you have to talk to Nicole, but I do remember that that was like supposed to happen, but the fence itself was like adequate. I'm not sure.
Well, it's supposed to be adequate until you guys went back into the restoration, and when you did the restoration, it was supposed to go in, but I don't think, just going out there as wet as it was, I don't think it's needed. I think the silt fence is doing the job.
Okay,
Downstream of the silt fence looks fine, both sides. I think you go in there now to do it, you're just gonna,
right, make it worse.
you can't step on it anyways, it's just, yeah.
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 No, I think they did a real nice job.
Yeah, I'm happy with what I'm seeing on these pictures.
All right, great.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Been a long road, but we're
It's good.
finally getting there.
I know,
Yeah.
and I appreciate
Yeah,
you working with the board, I really do, thank you.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. I mean, in terms of a sign, maybe, I mean, when people, if you're like mountain biking and you care about where you're
Colin knows
going.
that everybody, I mean, probably up until this happened, everybody thought that was the state park.
yeah.
Yeah, but I wonder
They
if
don't
you
realize
put
that
like
whole-
restoration in process or.
Yeah, like it's some sort of,
Conservation Commission, something to let them know like there's fragile stuff, plants, and don't come riding through here.
Yeah, and maybe I can put up some like wooden barriers too with more, you know, like, because there's no trespassing, but like I said, like just what you said, people are just gonna keep going through it because that's what they've done.
you know, like maybe that orange snow fencing I know it's
Yeah, or
asking a lot.
tape, right, yeah.
Yeah, some
You can
sort
get, you
of,
can get that stuff like right at Lowe's, I think.
yeah, the
Yeah.
orange fencing that they put up around excavation sites and stuff. Sometimes if you just kind of,
Yeah,
they might get the message that there's
Wrap around the
sensitive.
trees.
I think also too, they're probably used to seeing those no trespassing and going, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
yeah,
And then taking them down, but if you show something else is happening, it grabs their eye.
Right.
Like what, that's brand new, and I don't know, people who
How
care
about, what about, I mean, I don't.
typically aren't gonna go rushing through you know, an area where plants are, you know, is trying to be restored, if they
You'd
care
think,
about the
right,
environment.
you'd think that until.
Yeah, even
I
like
would
you
hope.
said, like a caution tape or something,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
stake,
what I would start with. I would start with the yellow.
yeah, caution
Yeah.
tape near the trees, you know, stake
Probably
it
gonna
next
have
to
with
the
the
tree.
snow fences in the springtime, stuff's gonna start growing, it's gonna
Yeah.
grow onto the snow fence.
Right, right, right. Yeah, caution tape with, you know, stake it in the area so that they can see its restoration.
Yeah.
Just, I just
I mean-
run caution tape from tree to tree. and-
Yeah, the tree looks good. The trees look really good.
Yeah,
She did a nice job.
Get there, so.
Thank you.
All right.
That'll work.
Good, all right, thanks, guys.
So I guess
Thank you.
probably, when do you wanna,
Yeah, sometime in the spring, I guess, I have Nicole talk to you guys, whatever, send out the emails, and then, I don't know, you
yeah, I
tell me.
think probably, we should probably meet sometime, and I'd say like February, just to get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And then get a schedule, so that way when the growing season starts, you can get right out there and do it, and just be done with it.
Sounds good, sounds good to me.
Thank
All
you
right,
very,
thanks,
very
Colin.
much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, next up, discussion on Wetland Protection Act violations located at 833 Washington Street. That's the temple at the corner of Washington Street. I believe they're not gonna go through with the work on the gazebo. So I guess we're just waiting to hear back when they're gonna backfill and how they're gonna de-water that hole before they backfill.
Okay.
And that's it, so no further movement on that.
So it's not happening.
Nope. So next up is notice of intent filed by Crystal Cameron located at 200 Myers Ave and 0 Walnut Street for the well station. How do we? Oh, you there?
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Good, it worked out, good.
It did. Thank you so much for allowing us to come in virtually.
I was hoping we could use the big screen, not the little laptop, but
Oh, no! Thank you for letting us join you virtually. Just as a brief reminder, this notice of intent is for the Myers Ave water plant improvements. The vast majority of these improvements were in a previous notice of intent.
could you just
the
introduce
only-
could you just introduce yourselves first?
Yes, of course. Thank you for inviting me. Devin Herrick, wetland scientist with Weston and Sampson.
And I'm Tara McManus with Weston Sampson, project manager and team leader.
All right,
So,
keep going.
As a brief recap for this particular project, the vast majority of this work was actually covered under a previous notice of intent. Only the pumping test was completed and then the project was shut down. Based on some of the water quality results that came back, they've had to make some changes to the plans. So now they're back seeking a new notice of intent, which will incorporate those changes, including a building for PFAS treatment. I believe that the DEP file number did come in late this afternoon. And one other item that we had sent to Tony was a request for a certificate of compliance to close out the old order of conditions. Again, the only item that was completed on that particular order was the pumping test. I believe a site walk was conducted last week where you're able to see the updated wetland delineation and tour the site. But if you have any questions, we would welcome them.
So with the DEP number that was given, they made a comment about how the river was not on the plans, and they want to make
Correct.
certain
It's
that...
more than 200 feet away from any of the limit of work, so it wasn't put on the plans because it won't show.
Right. Can we put them on the plans? The river. Yeah.
We can. I'm not sure how much it will show on the plans, but we can certainly attempt to.
We just want to make certain, because whatever, if we approve this, whatever we see here is good for 3 years. So if somebody comes back in 2 years and then says, there's no river here, it's not on your plan, right? So it'd be good to have that, acknowledgement that there is a river on that site. Even if
Okay.
even if the work is not within 200 feet.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? We're not going to be able to vote on the certificate of compliance tonight because we just got it today, so we couldn't post it. So we're probably going to have to vote on this, vote on that, and then vote on this at the next meeting. So we have to close that one out before we can vote on the new one.
Not a problem. I don't know how your commission likes to handle things, and we can certainly do that if it's your preference. We've had circumstances in the past where we've just requested to close with a condition that you receive the request for certificate of compliance, the hard copies prior to issuance, but I will leave it to however your commission likes to handle, of course.
Usually, since I've been on the board, it's close one out and then vote on the other one.
Right.
Yeah.
We can do them simultaneously.
Yeah.
We could do it at the same meeting.
Right, we'll do it at the same meeting, exactly.
Yeah, we did the site walk, we also went over what was done on the previous order of conditions. And you guys, do you have any questions on that? It's pretty straightforward and simple.
Yeah.
Anybody in the audience have any questions? Someone want to make a motion to continue to the November 8th meeting?
I'll make a motion to continue the 200 Myers Ave and 0 Walnut Street, what's it, November what?
It's file number SE 0840561. It's going to be for the November 8th.
561?
Yep. And it's going to be for the November 8th meeting.
November 8th.
So continuance, I'll make a motion to continue this SE 084-561 to the November meeting,
November 8th meeting.
November 8th,
Yes.
November 8th meeting.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much for your time. We will send along the updated plans.
Okay,
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Bye.
All right, next up is notice of intent filed by Glenn LaPointe located at 48 Rockland Street. Is there a DEP number for this? Thought
There
there
is.
was.
Yeah, the day after.
What was it, just so I can,
Yeah. I have
is it on the? Oh, I got it right here, I'm sorry. So it's SE 0840560.
Correct, yep.
60.
Is this being recorded for David, this meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, all right, we're just trying to figure out where to place this.
Oh, thank you.
Is this good? Over here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, 560, okay. Thank you.
056.
Yeah, not a one, okay, thank you.
I'm going to share these.
I'm updating Dan's as we go.
Thank you, sir.
Hello again, Sean Riley, 501 Washington Street, attorney for the property owner Abington Investments LLC. With me tonight is Glenn LaPointe Jr. and again Eric Diaz from Strong Point Engineering Solutions. We were here 2 weeks ago on October 11th with the plan for 48 Lincoln Street, which is an existing single-family house which has been condemned. And the proposal is to remove it and replace it with a new single-family house. And the big issue that we were talking about was the fact that the easterly boundary of this lot is a river, an existing river. This house lot, and like all the other house lots in that area, have been in existence for decades. So the lawn goes right up to the river. We didn't vote on it last time because we didn't have the DEP number or any comments from DEP. I saw the comment was they wanted the 2-year growth thingamajiggy to be a condition because it's near the river, which is fine with us. So just to recap, the I can't remember where it's here, but the existing building, the existing house is right in this area here. The new house is on top of the rear part of the house. The existing driveway is right up here. The proposed driveway would be over here, farther away. Existing driveway, this is the 20-foot line, the small dotted red line, is the 20-foot line, no disturb line from the river. The driveway is right up against that 20-foot, the existing driveway is right up against that. We're gonna remove that pavement and bring it over to the farthest side of the lot that we can. There's also an existing pavement out back here in the backyard. I don't know if that was a former basketball court or a tennis court, I'm not sure what it was, but the proposal is to remove that pavement and to remove this old shed that's also out in the backyard. There is a small retaining wall along the side of the house, which, as we indicated before, helps us with a couple things. It allows us to kind of control stormwater so that instead of right now, if you've been out there, it just is a pretty steep decline right here, that it just sheets right into the river. Some of the lawn catches it, some of the lawn doesn't. So what we're planning on doing is just adjusting the topography, so water that flows along the side of the house, some of it's going to come down back towards the backyard instead of into the river. This topography between the wall and the river would be able to be adjusted slightly so it's a little flatter. Without the retaining wall, it would be steeper. So that helps with stormwater management, flood control, pollution, because the lawn becomes a natural filter. Similarly, I always trip up on that word, over on this side of the house, it's another steep drop from the street down to the backyard. There'd be some adjustment in that as proposed in order to not use retaining wall. That would again direct water, any storm water, rain water basically, to the backyard where it can be absorbed. We had talked about in our last meeting about putting in a couple of evergreen trees out back, which is fine. And I know Lynn had sent us an email. I don't know if everybody got it? Okay.
No, it was just addressed,
Okay.
because we're not supposed to chat
Yes.
amongst ourselves.
Which was wise.
Yes.
She had brought up some questions, comments about the River Protection Act, which is the sections she was discussing is somewhat convoluted, but we can try to get through that as much as you can. Basically, with the River Protection Act, as this board knows, there's a 100-foot zone and a 200-foot zone. Really, it's a 200-foot river protection area on both sides of the river. This property is entirely within the riverfront area because it's only about 130 feet wide. So it actually extends to our neighbors and it also goes on the other side of the river. So when you're working in the riverfront, there are restrictions and regulations what you can and cannot do. However, with a single-family home, it does have a little more leeway. In fact, the Riverfront Protection Act in this preamble talks about, they actually have written it to encourage cleanup around the rivers. Wherever work can be done to clean up degraded areas, whether it's a junkyard or a paved area or an area that doesn't have soil, cleaning it up is only going to benefit the river. So, and with single-family homes on lots that existed before August 7, 1996, they are also grandfathered in. They're allowed to have the single-family use and all the accoutrements to a single-family house. This lot did exist in August of 1996. I brought all the deeds back to the 1950s if you want me to prove it, but otherwise you can take my word for it. So this is a single-family house on a pre-existing lot with an existing house on the river. We can't rebuild the existing house. That was one of the things the points looked at with the building inspector. One of the reasons this building is condemned is because it's not a typical foundation under it that you'd see in a house nowadays. It's basically boulders, it's crumbling. You can't build on that foundation. You've got to dig it up and start over again. So what we're proposing is a house that conforms to this neighborhood, both in size and in layout. Meaning, we looked at how to orient the house on this lot. At one point, we were going to turn it a little bit, but if you go up and down this part of Lincoln Street, every house is perpendicular to the street. They're all the same thing, because they're all older houses. So ours is the same perpendicular. We comply with the zoning setbacks, which are shown in the black dotted lines. The current house violates the front yard setback. I know I'm repeating myself from October 11th, but just to kind of bring us all back to speed. We are moving the house back off the road, increasing the front lawn area, and to also cure that zoning violation. We conform to this side yard violation by about a foot, and we conform to the side yard setback and the rear yard setback out back. The house itself is not a large house, especially when you compare it to the neighboring houses. And I did bring some paperwork just to kind of demonstrate that, because this is the assessor's plan, and I did the research on all these lots. Actually, no, let me give you these copies. I highlighted the numbers, it might be easier to find. Do that one. Here's one, Alex.
Thank you.
Here's the blank one. Sorry. We're not.
Sorry.
This just shows really quickly, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but the pink lot is our lot, the Locust Lot, 48 Lincoln Street, and shows the proposed house would be 1,612 square feet, including the garage. And if you're looking at our house and you look to the left, at the house to the left, it's 2,032 square feet. Look to the right, it's 1,900 square feet. To the right again, it's 1,744 square feet. So this house fits in the neighborhood. It's not larger than the other houses. It's smaller than the immediate houses. As you go further down the street, some of the houses are smaller and some of them, again, are larger. But it's certainly within the sizes of the neighborhood. What we are proposing, we need to demonstrate when you're working in the riverfront, there's no significant adverse impact. I had to write that down because I was going to get that phrase. No significant adverse impact to our proposal. And as we explained at October 11th, we would submit to you what we're proposing has significant improvements to this area along the river. Meaning, we're getting rid of impervious surfaces. One of the things you need to do is to calculate when it talks about a previously developed lot in the riverfront, it's talking about the amount of impervious surfaces. The amount of impervious surfaces that exist there today is greater than what we are proposing with our project. We are lessening the amount of impervious surfaces. So that obviously is not an adverse impact to the riverfront. Pulling the driveway away is a benefit because you're getting that pavement away from the river, which is also right next to that slope. Pulling it over here, we pulled it as far away as we could. The house is still farther away from the river than the existing driveway. And Lynn had asked the question and made the point in her email that, I don't want to paraphrase, but, well, I will paraphrase, tell me if I'm wrong though. I'm happy that you're moving the driveway farther away, but the new house is closer than the old house, and you can't do that. Everything has to move. And I don't agree with that interpretation, respectfully. We're not here getting a order of conditions for the driveway as one project, and the house is another project, and the removal of the pavement out back is another project. We're getting an order of conditions for this project as a whole. So that's the work authorized by the order of conditions. So is this work, is this project farther away from the river or the same distance than the existing? And the answer is yes, it is farther away. You have to look at it all together. And our driveway, our house, is farther away than the existing driveway and the existing house. And I wanted to show one other thing, which, to your defense, you weren't aware, and we didn't bring it up last time. I went over there and took some photos, which might help. I wasted a lot of color ink today, but
You took a lot more than me.
I think this might
I got
help.
some over there too.
Where's the coffee?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, just quickly, page 1 shows you obviously a picture of the house. You can see the X mark on the front door. It shows it's a condemned structure. It has to be taken down. On the bottom of page 1, it shows the corner of that lot, the corner of the driveway is very close to the tree line along the river. We are not taking any trees down along the river. Page 2 shows the existing pile of debris out in the front part of the yard that's right along the river. If you look closely, you can see a table and a ladder and some wires and stuff in there. And then another view right off the driveway. There's a couple of concrete structures, not only a bird bath that's surrounded by concrete, but there's actually I don't want to call it a memorial marker, but it's something similar to it. Another piece of concrete. All of that will be removed from the riverbank. Page 3 shows, again, up near the house, running off the side of the house is a chain link fence that runs pretty much to the top of the riverbank. That is going to be removed, which is one of the the interest that is protected under the riverfront protection is wildlife habitat. If you're allowed to put fences up with single-family homes, but you have to leave room for the wildlife to get under. The existing fences don't, we're removing that, so it's a benefit to the wildlife. The bottom of page 3 shows you a view from the rear of that fence area. You can see I'm down at the bottom of the slope in the backyard. Page 4 is the picture I wanted to show you, specifically about how close this house is compared to the old house. You can't see it on this plan because we showed the new house on top of the ghosted image of the old house. And what you don't see is, well, you can see it in the photo, there's a stairway that comes out of the house towards the river. And it is you can see it's a good 6-7 feet off of the house, and if you look closely, you can see the large concrete footings on the bottom of the stairs near the steps and also near the landing. So there already is concrete footings. This is the side of the old house right there. You can see it in the photo. And then right in here, the stairway comes out right underneath there. So this new house is essentially on top of the old house and the old stairway. So we're really not closer than the existing structure. We're moving the driveway farther away, so that's an obvious benefit. But to continue on with the photos, down the bottom, there's a large chunk of concrete. I'm not sure what it was or is, but it's right on the riverbank. You can see we'll remove that. Backyard debris, it's all over the place. We're removing that, including the cement bench that's on the riverbank. Turning to page 6, there's another chain link fence out back, which again, you can see, if you look closely, you can see some of the fence posts. Goes all the way to the river. It's behind that big pile of debris. All of that debris will be removed and the fence will be removed. Removal of debris and removal of the fences is part of the redevelopment, the cleaning up and protection of the riverfront. Another view of the backyard debris just shows you the stuff that is just out there lying around. All of this is within the riverfront. All of this will be removed. Page 7 shows the shed that's out back, part of the impervious that we're removing, and right in the middle of that picture, it's covered by leaves, so it's hard to see, is that old basketball court or tennis court or whatever it was. That's all going to be taken up and restored to natural lawn area, natural grass lawn, which will help with stormwater pollution and just improving the riverfront area. Bottom of page 7, you can see the fence that's still in the back, and there's some debris out back there. Page 8, just wanted to show you what's on the other side of the house, away from the river. You can see there's another dramatic slope from the street, which is on the left side. You can't see the street because I'm down at the bottom of the hill, but it slopes down to the backyard. And then the bottom picture on page 8 looks to the left along the property line with our abutter, and you can see some trees that are there. It's not noted on our plan. It says that we're going to go in there and regrade. There's only really 2 or 3 trees that have to come down in that area. Just want to make that clear. We didn't make that point last meeting. But that grading will still flow from the front to the back, but we'll just do a better job. Right now you can see it's kind of a hard pan that comes off of the street. That will be converted into a lawn area. And then on page 9, there's yet more fence and more debris over there near that tree line. That will all be removed. Again, it's all in the riverfront. If you look in the middle of the picture on the top of page 9, you can see the neighbor's retaining wall, which is kind of a large boulder, or it's not a block retaining wall, it's old big boulders. It's kind of nice actually, but that's up on top of the hill there. We will be basically conforming our grading to that wall area. You can see the tree that's right next to his retaining wall. That tree's not coming down. It can't come down, and you have to take the whole wall out. That one tree in the middle of the picture would have to be sacrificed in order to improve the drainage in the lawn area. And then bottom of page 9 is just another view from more of like towards the front, looking backwards of the debris and of that same tree that I just mentioned. And then finally, page 10 shows you the slope on the west side of the house once again, shows you that tree line, and just, there's, again, really only, there's a lot of leafy in there, there's a lot of underbrush really, but there's only 2 or 3 actual trees that would be removed in order to accomplish the cleanup and the improvement to the topography. So in all facets, we are improving the riverfront. The board has to make sure that there is no significant adverse impact to our proposed project. No significant adverse impact. I don't know that there's any adverse impact, but I can tell you strongly that we don't believe there's any significant adverse impact. This cleans up the area, cleans up the house, gets rid of what is now a vacant, dilapidated house. The neighbors on both sides Glenn has talked to are thrilled. I know that's not your concern really as a board, but this should help protect the river much more than it is now. It's going to clean up the river much more than it is now, and it's going to help with flood control, wildlife, pollution, stormwater, all the things that the riverfront names as protected interests, with the exception of shellfish and fisheries, which don't apply here. That's my summary. I'm hoping you'll take a vote to approve this plan so we can move forward with it tonight, but if you have any questions, we'll do our best to answer them as best we can. Thanks.
So you're saying the house is actually not getting closer to the river
Yeah, it's, if anything,
because of that?
yeah, that stairway structure, if you can see, and I will say, even if it is a foot closer or two, the regulations allow this board, because it's a single-family house on a pre-existing lot, you're allowed to waive full compliance with the regulations. Especially if,
Not quite, right? You still, I wrote out what I was thinking, and then I called Andrew at DEP for
Yep.
his thoughts, and he completely 100% agreed with me
Yep.
about it. So, you know, nothing can move closer to the river. The house can't move closer to the river. If what I see right here, and from what you explained, is that the, what was it?
stairway
Stairway.
and concrete and...
Is, if the house is not moving any closer to the river because the stairway is there, then that's fine. What I said before, you know, I like the idea of the driveway being moved over,
Yeah.
getting rid of the impervious surfaces. One of the thing though is because this is a resource area in itself, whatever proposed work you do isn't what's just gonna remain. It's all the work that's being done, and in the NOI, it said you're doing 5.7% of work on top of the 14.2%. And according to Andrew, any work that you do above that has to be replicated or restored. And so the ideas that we came up with that would allow this to be something he would think would be approvable would be restoration of some areas, like in the northeast corner, you've got that driveway that you're gonna move.
Up here.
It's, what are you gonna do with, you know, it's gonna be ugly. So take some of that, you know, 5.7% and use it for restoration of that area of the lot. And I can't quite, doesn't look like there's very much in between that old driveway, but what was it, 5.7% was almost 1,100 square feet.
So this area here that I highlighted is where I came up with that 5.7%. So that's existing tree line to proposed tree line. So it's 5.7% new disturbance on the lot.
Yes.
Everything else is in currently disturbed areas.
Right.
So this is actually 1,095 square feet. So I think what you're saying is if we were to take this and maybe do some plantings up in this area here, right up to the tree line here, and almost even these two things out.
Pretty much, yeah. So if you're cutting down trees, you're doing work, etc., take that same, do a 1-to-1.
Yeah.
I think it would make that a lot nicer. You won't have, because I don't know what you had planned to do with the current driveway, like once you got rid of it.
Load and seed, basically.
Okay, so if instead, because it's a resource area, you have to account for whatever work you're doing by doing a 1-to-1 restoration or a 2-to-1 mitigation. So that was one idea, make up for that, because the driveway is gonna be gone anyway. Fill in as much as you can, and if you still need to do more, you could do the area of the shed.
Where they're gonna plant the trees.
Right. Or And if you still need more to make up that about 1,100 square feet, then do where that, presumably that basketball court was that you guys are removing. The other idea was, let's say that wasn't what you, wasn't gonna work out in terms of restoration, do mitigation along that extend that stream area to make it a really nice
So in here.
vegetated, yeah. That would be a 2-to-1 mitigation.
Okay.
You could do also a combination. You could do restoration in one part, mitigation to continue it, but that was the things that he and I discussed, because he did not think that this met the interests of the act as is defined now, but that making these small changes would allow it to comply. So,
I agree with everything you said. Was he aware we were decreasing impervious too?
yes.
Okay, good. Because we had talked about whether you guys were going to ask us or not, was trying to plant some trees down here for the homeowner. Because as you can see, there already kind of are, there's more trees up here, but not so much in the rear part of it. So we were going to add to that. I know that you, the board last week talked about it, planting 2 or 3 evergreens out back in this area. But we were also looking to throw a couple more over here for some sort of species of a tree.
So whatever you can do that is closest to the river
Right.
is the preferential
better.
thing. So if you can get native trees, that sort of thing, that would help balance out that, or that would use up that,
That's where we were
1100
looking
square
down.
feet,
Because this is a lower area that it does not have as much of a tree line now. So it just kind of jumped out at us. Right?
So if we were to come back here, I drew it about 10 feet off the riverbank, just for giggles, right? So whatever, if we were to take the tree line as you see it here and extend it down here and kind of populate this area here with a couple of trees, if that was equal to roughly 1,100 square feet that we're filling here, that would give us apples and apples.
that's exactly right.
That would give us
Yeah.
apples and apples.
The problem is that what to do about the lawn, because the regulations say in a difficult situation, I think by difficult they mean you're in the 100-foot zone here.
You can't get out of it,
You
yeah.
can't get out of it, that would be considered difficult, is that the extent of lawn can only be for where you're gonna have construction. So in terms of extending the turf lawn, Andrew was like, that's a no-go,
Yeah.
essentially.
And we're not
So-
proposing to. The only,
Okay.
I think there might have been a in the letter that I sent to Andrew.
Yeah.
I might have worded it wrong, and I think I referred to a lawn expansion,
Yeah,
not an expansion. What I meant was the area where the pavement is and where the shed is, that's gonna be turned back into lawn. So we're not expanding any lawn. It's not like we're pushing it closer to the riverfront area or the river bank or anything like that. I just meant that we're gonna fill this back into lawn. That's all.
yeah. I'm thinking though, lawn isn't really the greatest, it's still area that you're not really making back into riverfront area. So I'm wondering if instead, that would be, we could substitute different plants for that. You could put native grasses down, for example.
Yeah.
Or trees, bushes, that sort of things. But I think, I'm very hesitant to replace something with the lawn based on my conversation with him. Because really, the lawn is just so supposed to be in the areas that you're constructing. That's the extent of all the lawn you're supposed to have on the lot.
Yeah, I find that interesting because, as you probably know, in the regulations, a homeowner's allowed to go remove impervious pavement from their backyard free of charge, basically. They can do that and put the lawn back where it was. So if, let's say this house was existing, it's a beautiful house, and the guy has a basketball court, he can take that, what once was lawn, he made a basketball court, he can take that back out and put it back to being a lawn. And you don't have to get permission from the Conservation Commission, is the way I read that. To us, it only made sense that if you're gonna rip up the pavement, you gotta replace it with something. So, and because it's right next to the FEMA flood zone, we thought, a flatter lawn area would work. But if you're gonna require trees, we already talked about planting a couple of trees down there. If you want us to kind of concentrate in that area, that's fine.
I would put more, I mean, it sucks up more water, you're
Yeah.
having the water flow back there anyway.
Yeah.
Trees are gonna suck up a lot more of that water, and it's gonna prevent whatever, you know, the yard they have, and I don't know how this is situated. Is there anybody behind them? No.
No.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
So,
it's all overgrowth and,
yeah.
yeah, we're here to get approval, so we want to hear what it is that you think would make this work, and what you just discussed with the Pretty Creek area and a couple of trees down with a, we'll call it basketball court.
Yeah.
If that's, and let me just ask, and maybe I'm jumping the gun, if that's a plan of attack that we can all agree on, is that something that we can condition, or is that, would that be?
Then you'd have to
something that
submit us, we'll agree on the square footage,
Mhm.
put that in the order of conditions, and one of the conditions could be you have to submit a plan before you do the work that we look at and approve.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, I'd like to see a plan.
Layout of what's to be
Yeah, I want
planted.
to see like what
Right,
is being
because we've
planned.
actually requested that for previous projects that have the same sort of situation where they were beside a resource area, they were in a riverfront area.
We don't have a problem with that, because
If we have the
They need to-
square footage in the order of conditions, they don't do it, they're not gonna get a certificate of compliance until
Right.
it's done. So instead of having them come back to vote, once they get us a plan, I think we can vote, if we vote to approve it with one of the conditions being whatever that square footage is gonna be, and that they provide us with the plan showing the layout.
So where that staircase was on the original house, was that on, you said that was on concrete? Or there was just
Yeah.
concrete pads?
it's
It's a pad.
Yeah, concrete footings, they're pretty large.
On
Usually,
sonotubes?
yeah,
Yeah.
but larger, for whatever reason, they're like 3 feet wide.
Yeah,
And it's like, they're huge.
So that exceeded, or that is in the area of the 7 foot of the solid impervious surface of the size of the house? Yeah,
Yes.
I see that.
Yeah, so you can definitely see from the photo that stairway is off of this main house, so we covered it with the new building.
I think you might be more than 7 feet.
It
Yeah.
probably is, I mean, when you look at, if it's built to code with a 4-foot wide, and they have to have
Yeah.
a 5x4 landing and all, but, you know, it works size-wise for the neighborhood, it improves the riverfront area, and again, the biggest thing that the first threshold, the first criteria is there's no significant adverse impact. So I think everything that you've talked about today satisfies that, and the points are here to just find out what's on their list of things to do. So we would come up with a landscaping plan for this area and this area, right?
Well, not just landscaping, because, well, yeah, it would have, yeah.
Maybe a landscaping
Sorry.
plan.
I'm thinking of replication. It's,
Yeah.
you have to figure out, are you gonna do restoration, or are you gonna do replication?
Yep.
I think we're gonna do, gee, I guess how would we term that?
You can do, so the mitigation would be at a 2-to-1. I like the idea of having it go along the river right there. You could mix and match with, because mitigation is a 2-to-1,
Right.
restoration is 1-to-1.
I'm thinking with the
But you can
policy.
mix and match and get to some value, but whatever works on this property.
My thought would be to go with a 1-to-1, just because we're very tight here, right? And one thing I don't want to do is give the limit the landowner, the eventual homeowner, even more to having no lawn area, right? Because we give them an extra 1,000 or 1,100 square feet of restoration area that they then can no longer touch
Yeah.
in the future. So I would prefer to stick with a 1-to-1. My thought would be the pink area that we have shown, and then whatever else is left over, we'll do kind of on the basketball court. Okay, right, and we'll put together a planting plan that shows what we're gonna plant there. Obviously, it'll be native species, and we'll get that back over to you folks to bless it, and we'll get to work.
Yeah, so do you have a wetland scientist?
I do, Brad Holmes, an environmental consulting and restoration, did the delineation here. In fact, I'm doing 2 restorations with him right now. He's very, very good.
Okay.
So he can put together a planting plan for us. He's a professional wetland scientist, and he will, I'll have him put together the plan, and we'll get it back to you folks.
Yeah, I mean, just, again, out of the regs, restoration itself at 1:1, it says, I'm gonna read right from it, it says, shall include 4 things. Removal of all debris, but retaining any trees or other mature vegetation, which is what we're gonna do. Number 2, grading to a topography which reduces runoff and increases infiltration, which is what we're proposing. Number 3, coverage by topsoil at a depth consistent with natural conditions at the site, which is what we'd be doing in these areas we just talked about. And number 4, seeding and planting with erosion-controlled seed mixture, followed by plantings of herbaceous and woody species appropriate to the site, which is, again, what we were just talking about. So, we can make this work.
So the restoration plan, they should have a narrative describing exactly what they're going to be doing. And a long time ago, a year ago, people laughed at this, but I said it needs to be in an 8 by 12, 12-point font, black ink, that sort of thing, because my eyes are getting older. And, I mean, we've had cases where people have put it literally in a 3-point gray font.
Yeah.
And I've had to get out the magnifying
So I
glass.
wish I had an example with me. Yeah, every time we do one, we have a plan. We take a plan that looks like this, we'll put the planting species right on it with a planting table, we'll color it up, show you where the plants are gonna go, and it comes with a narrative report that goes with it. It talks about.
A separate,
narrative report.
like
Yeah.
this, so it's
Yeah.
easy to read, okay,
Yep.
cool,
And it talks about means and methods. And
Yes, I wanna-
Monitoring and all of that good stuff.
perfect.
Is there anything that you don't want to see? I want to make sure that this is done on the next one. So is there anything that you have in mind that you don't want to see on this, planting-wise, species-wise, so that he doesn't draw something, then we end up coming back and we say, no, I don't like that?
I don't have like preferences, just make it natives. Mixture, anything that makes it look,
No burning bushes.
no burning bushes,
I would say
trees.
whatever you currently have on the property.
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
Similar,
Close to
something that would blend in and work with
Might want to put
that.
some shrubs in there. I mean, one of the things that we've kind of made certain is that whoever gets it doesn't put like little tiny twigs
Yeah.
in terms of the trees.
I mean,
You
the
want,
size of the plantings we've been requesting is usually 6 to 8 foot,
yeah.
and that's for the trees.
Yeah.
And it's just because you've got 3 years, actually 2 years to get 75% of this established.
Right.
And the better you do it, the less you have to worry about us coming out there and,
And you want to hit all the layers.
yeah. Yeah, but I don't have any preference, I'd let that be the wetland scientist, and so far, I haven't had anybody come up and say, some people have come up and not given us enough of, like, trees. They've just been kind of giving us little tiny shrubs, and based on what I'm seeing on this site, trees are good, and some shrubs in there as well.
You, Mr. Chairman, had mentioned that we would submit, the plan would be that we would submit a plan back to the commission for review and approval. Is that a review and approval that we'd have to come to another meeting to talk about, or is that an administrative review and approval? Because I think I know where my client's going, he'd love to avoid another meeting if at all
Yeah.
I was
possible.
gonna say, if I could suggest,
We designate one person to,
I was
we don't
gonna,
have to meet. You're the restoration, replication pro.
if it satisfies Lynn, we're okay, and if not, you could alert us that we need you to come back in.
Yeah.
Or you could tell us what to tweak, whatever.
She's taken all the MACC classes, which,
Yep.
tell me if I'm not speaking truth, but I think she knows more than anybody else on the board as far as restoration, replication goes.
I would agree.
Brought the question up. She got tired.
We don't have
So,
a
yeah,
problem with that.
I think just do it that way. When you guys get the plan, submit it to Tony. Tony can email it to Lynn and she can,
And I'll email you guys if I'm just like,
oh yeah, you actually, you can just.
I don't like this tree, then you'll know ahead of time and you can make the
Yeah.
changes and stuff.
We'll submit it through Tony, just so there's a record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going through. Okay.
Absolutely. Let's do it right. But, yeah.
Okay.
And I have to say, I know this isn't part of this project, but in terms of MACC, we now have another person who has been certified.
It's not on the agenda.
Jeannie Matiosis.
not on the
That's all I'm
agenda.
gonna say.
It's not
It
on
was
the
brought
agenda.
up as the course of the meeting.
Congrats, Gene.
Congrats.
It's a lot of work.
And there will be a dessert
Wait.
next time, so.
Stole my thunder for the next meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, shouldn't we have a cake or something? I thought it was impressive.
She doesn't like cake, she likes pie.
What kind of pie?
Barry.
Which for?
Any other questions from the board?
Barry and
Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? Bring it back to the board. Would somebody like to make a vote?
I'd like
A motion?
What?
Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve SE 084-0560
You want to, with the condition,
with the condition of the, what do we call it?
restoration plan?
The restoration plan.
You have a second?
And the DEP language that he requested, right? Part of your motion. Right?
And-
He requested that that 2-year language be included. Am I correct? The issuing authority shall include a continuing condition, it's in the certificate of compliance, never mind. Oh, it's prior to requesting an issuance of certificate of compliance, the applicant shall demonstrate the restoration mitigation has been successfully completed for at least 2 growing seasons. So that should be in.
That'll be in our...
That'll be in the order of conditions.
Language?
Yeah.
No, that'll be in our order of conditions. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So just,
We don't have to put it in the motion tonight.
So I'd like to make a motion for SE 084-0560 with the attached restoration plan.
that will come after approval.
Right.
Yeah, be submitted after approval.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you all very much.
You guys want to stay for the orders, or?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask about the conditions, because, yeah, I do have a letter that's not related to this project that I wanted to drop off. I was gonna drop it off earlier, but while I'm here, I'm dropping it off. What's that?
Standard?
Sorry?
Standard?
Oh, the standard conditions. Because
I have mine somewhere.
we're trying to make this as efficient as possible for both you and for different applicants.
I got mine.
And so what we know is like in the previous one with Lee Mann, you know, you guys took a vote to approve it, we left, and then there were some conditions discussed later in the meeting, which we didn't frankly know about until they were published. And I had similar questions with 402 Groveland Street, which is the letter I wanted to drop off to you. So in order to stop wasting your time and having us come back 2 weeks later saying, hey, can we talk about these conditions? I think it would be helpful if we listen to your checklist of conditions and see what we're trying to implement here. Make sure there's nothing that jumps out at us saying we can't do that. For example, one of them at 402 Groveland Street said you have to plant the trees by October 15, 2022. That date's already passed, so we, you know, I said, in my letter says we need to change that. But let's talk about 48 Lincoln Street.
All right, well, the first one, A1, I think we should do it the same way we did Rockland Street early. We should just do it as the plans show, because they're coming out into the 20-foot area.
Yeah, that's fine.
Then I had all the rest of A2, A3, A4, A5, and A6.
Yep.
Tell me to slow down if you want. And then B, I had just B1 and B6. I didn't have anything for C.
Right.
Anything or no? Anything I didn't
I
recall.
don't think we have anything for D, right?
And D1, we want to make sure that the river's clean, but I don't know why we would call it a water quality monitoring program.
Yeah, I don't.
That's one of those things that should just be, it's been there, and we just want to make sure that you guys are, when you're doing the work, are making sure nothing's getting into the river.
Well, I think that can go maybe something somewhere.
We can make a special condition, just monitor for any,
Yeah, because this is talking about more of an actual
If it-
reports. And
right.
that's- we wouldn't do that.
and that's all I had, I didn't, so nothing for D. How do we want to do this?
Can we wait until we see?
How would you do that, though? Would you have to amend the order of conditions? Or what?
Can I see- If I may?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, just a blanket condition that says, you know, the mitigation area shall be as approved on the forthcoming report as approved by the commission.
As discussed, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, there's a lot of conditions that we put on for replication or restoration that are pretty, there's probably about 60 of them.
60,
Yes. Oh, 63.
63.
So that's the thing, is
For,
for replication or restoration.
yeah, we're not doing replication here.
Right, or
Yeah, I have it somewhere.
restoration.
We're doing,
Restoration, yeah.
yeah.
So there's, I mean, they're pretty picky conditions.
Yeah, I know.
So,
That's the one I'm.
but if you, yeah, I mean, we're not doing anything different than any other commission or,
As a matter of fact, a lot of it was gleaned from the classes that you took through MACC, so.
yeah.
I figured that's where it came from.
Yeah.
There's just,
Whatever you can do, I know it seems onerous when you look at it,
Right.
but it helps set you up for success
I
for
agree.
getting it
I
right
had a
in 2
comment on
years.
about 15 of them that
Yeah.
wording should be tweaked. Some should be deleted because it didn't apply to single-family houses. This is on the Golden Street one, but now we're talking about this single-family
Mm-hmm.
house similarly. So what, those 60, I don't have a copy of the 63 standard one. Is that
Well, we don't have a standard one. I mean, we're using some of the same ones, but it's going to be different, of course, for every single property. But things like, you know, where you're not going to get soil that's just from somebody's backyard that could be full of invasive species seeds, right? You know, things like that, or how you're going to deal with the inevitable invasive species that are going to pop up in the 2 years where we're getting it to grow. Like, how are you going to deal with that?
Yep.
You can't put pesticides in there, you know, things like that, where it's more specific.
So,
That's
just
what
one
we're
page.
talking
So this
about
is
now. How we-
7.5 pages of your standard conditions that the commission's used in the past. And there's an additional 63
Yeah, we started
conditions?
instituting that
Special conditions, yeah.
Special
Well, that we add
conditions.
to special conditions.
about a year ago.
Right.
We've been using that for about a year.
Right, it was the first I saw was at the Linwood Street one.
Right, right.
Um,
It started on another riverfront property
Correct.
that came before us that needed to do a lot of restoration.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Believe me, we just want to,
Yep,
we're trying to get approvals and make sure
Yeah.
we're complying. And I understand completely, when there's a river involved, it's a whole different, it's a higher threshold.
Exactly.
No doubt about it. So,
So am I wrong in thinking that in order to condition the restoration, you need the restoration plan in hand? So you can pick conditions that apply to the restoration plan? Because not all 63 may apply.
Right.
well, typically, a lot of them do
Oh, I'm
apply.
sure a lot of them do, yeah. I'm
It
sure
is
50
pretty,
at least do.
you know,
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah.
I would say most of them apply.
Special condition, maybe a blank condition that says special conditions, standard special conditions associated with wetland restoration shall be included as applicable based on the final approved plan.
Plan between, yeah, between, when you approve the restoration plan.
I don't think I can.
No, I'm pointing at her.
No, Tony
Oh.
asked me to say it again.
Oh, yeah.
that's why we have nothing.
Well, you're gonna have to when we do the special order, so.
Yeah, yeah. So what I was suggesting, Tony, was maybe just a condition that says, you know, the standard special conditions related to restoration shall apply based on review of the final submitted and approved restoration plan provided by the applicant. And then once you review the plan, you got your 63 conditions, you can check off all the ones that apply.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Does
Yeah,
the
it's
lawyer agree?
Well, it just gets unique, because as I said, this is an order of condition that's recorded at the registry of deeds, so it's a restriction on the property. And so we're just concerned that saleability and more importantly, mortgageability. Because mortgage holders don't, mortgage lenders want to make sure that when they are investing in or letting a mortgage on a house or a property, that there aren't any liens or enforcement orders or problems with this. They don't want to buy a problem, because they're always thinking, what happens if I foreclose on this property in 6 months? I own it. Do I have obligations that haven't been addressed? So we want to kind of make sure that things are specific, that we can complete the tasks, and hopefully, especially with a single-family house, usually construction, the house is done and sold in 6 to 8 months, so that works well. For example, Groveland Street, or that 63, there's a condition in there that says that the homeowner has to hire a wetland specialist to come every 2 months and file a report with photographs every 2 months to the commissioners for a 3-year period. And I personally thought for a single-family house, that was pretty onerous. It's not only as an expense, but we're submitting 12 reports to you over a 3-year period. I understand initially, let's get this thing up and growing, and we don't get a certificate of compliance if you guys walk out there and the trees we planted are dead. That's not gonna happen. We understand all that. So those are just some of our concerns, is how do we actually follow through, especially if we're selling the property in 8 months. And Tony's now the new owner. How do we figure out how to make this work? Because, in this regard, we're on the same team. We want to get this, Glenn's here to get a plan that conforms to the regulations, approved as efficiently and quickly as possible, and then build it according to the plans. Not looking to skirt anything, we just want to be efficient to it.
So how do we solve that problem, Mr. Riley? I understand your concern, but it's with us as well.
Yeah.
I mean, a builder comes in and says, okay, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna plant all this, and we're gonna monitor it for 2 years, and then they sell the property and they're gone.
And I think this, and I'm only speaking with like a single-family home, there's a big difference if you guys are dealing with like a multi-building condominium.
No. Right, I understand.
Or a commercial project, something that's gonna take 2 or 3 years to build, then yeah, you should have monitoring going on throughout that construction process, no doubt about it.
But with all the building that's going on now in the town, let's face it, there's no real buildable land that's really good to develop. Most of it's along wetlands, in a resource area,
Yep.
contains many resource areas. So, I mean,
Yeah.
we're trying to do our due diligence as far as the regulations go.
Oh, right, and
So-
I respect that, and I want you to do that.
Yeah, but I
forever.
mean, how do we solve this problem if in fact, Mr. LaPointe builds a property and then 8 months later sells it, and the people who move in, owing what happens to everything that was agreed upon?
Right.
This is, it's the DEP guidelines, right? You've got that
Yep.
2-year period to get the
Yeah,
75%.
and again,
How
because it's a
it's
river,
done,
I agree.
I don't know,
We have to
but
do it.
what we've
I mean, the
written
monitoring, I
is-
think the monitoring might be overkill, but, I mean,
They're supposed to have a report
but the thing is,
in the
it's,
growing season, so.
but the
just-
thing is, it's in the owner's best interest to make sure everything's growing, whether they think having a report every 2 months, every 6 months, every 8 months, if they don't get the 75% in 2 years, they're gonna be planting new plants. So,
For example, I think in your 63, I don't know if all 63 were with that Groveland Street one, but like one of the conditions said that after everything was planted, a report would be filed.
Yeah.
And then it said every 2 months, and then it said when you request certificate of compliance, a report was filed. And my point in my letter was, for a single-family home, filing a report when things are planted, and then filing a few months later when you ask certificate of compliance, you're gonna go out and check. You're gonna get a report with photographs first. But if you want, you have the right to go out and check those plants, and if they're not living, we don't get a certificate of compliance. That's completely different strategy if it's Target being constructed, or the Gables condominium, whatever. That's a 3-4 year build out. Yeah, you're gonna have reports annually or every 3 months, or whatever it is you need to do. So, my point with the single family was, if you have to do a report at the time you plant, and then you have to do it 4 months later when you ask for your certificate of compliance, we have to comply, and everything has to be thriving, or we're not gonna get a certificate. So that's where I'm like, okay, we can, obviously, that's always our goal. We wanna get that certificate of compliance, but we can't sell, and we're not gonna get a mortgage. So,
The thing is that, but these are standard conditions for any replication or restoration plan in Massachusetts, so I don't know what to
but
tell
not
you
every
about
board,
that.
not every board enforces it. I've done replications where I haven't had to fill out any reports.
but that's
And I
not
think
typical.
In some of those towns, there is an agent for the commission that goes out
Yeah.
and does
It does
the,
it.
But much like you do with these, I'll call these your standard conditions, depending on the project, you're going through and saying A1, A2, A3, not A4, A5, because it doesn't apply to that project.
Yep.
And I think the same would have to be done with the 63 things. Most of them probably do apply. I don't doubt it. And in most of the stuff, we're stating the obvious, but it has to, put it in writings, because that gives you more enforcement power. So when you talk about, has to be clean loam and you have to remove invasive species, not an issue to us, that's fine. But, sorry, I don't want to
I'm
keep you
doing,
up
I'm
to
doing a
date.
project right now, I have 164 orders, and the chairman of the commission told us, is every project is unique. You cannot base your decisions off of another project. Every project is unique. There's something different about every project you do.
One of the issues with restoration replication are it's very difficult to do. I think there was a
They're not
study,
successful. 90, was it?
54% of the time they're successful. And so that's one of the reasons why you want to have a lot of monitoring that's being done. So if you notice year one, end of the growing season, nothing has survived, crap, what do I do? If you can catch those problems early on.
Yeah.
If we had a conservation agent, then we wouldn't have to be worrying about this. I can talk to Andrew and see what's done, but the things about that, that's pretty standard in terms of the requirements that people are doing.
I think-
So I understand what you're saying in terms of, well, how do we practically, on a practical level,
Yeah.
how can we do this?
Just like a single family, I don't know if every 2 months or so. I don't mind that start, at the end of every year, like if construction carries over a second year, yeah, we should have an end of year and the growing season report. And then another report in the spring.
Well,
I
beginning
think
and
you do
end of
it.
the
I
growing
think
season.
Right, exactly.
If you're gonna do the restoration in the spring for this project.
Yeah.
I think a couple weeks before the next growing season, in the fall, take a look and see what you have, because if everything's dead, you're gonna wanna
Right.
plant right then and there.
Growing season in Massachusetts is basically March to November.
Yep.
And so theoretically,
March, October.
Yeah,
What's that?
I want to say
October
November.
15.
October.
well, the reg said November, but you're right. The best time to plant would probably be October.
I feel.
Because then they kind of take root before December and winter hits. But in any event, theoretically, where are we now? We're in October, right? If we get our permits and stuff, we're not going to be planting anything right now. We'd be planting in the spring, which would be probably March or April, whenever they can get out in that area. Great, we'll plant, and then we would have a report theoretically at the end of the year, in October or November. Actually, we'd probably be looking for a certificate of compliance, we'd have a report coming up saying everything's growing. And if it's not growing, we're not getting a certificate of compliance. We're gonna have to, if we see in June 3 trees are dead, we're already replacing those trees. I mean, we're not gonna, these guys have been doing it too long that they know. And just, that's all. I don't want to nitpick everything, but single-family house, I don't think we have to have a report filed with Tony every 2 months.
Yeah,
These guys will be
Yeah,
reviewing it.
I think that's too much too.
Yeah,
So
way
beginning
too
and the
much.
end
It's just
of
a
the
single
growing
family
season.
house, just a single family.
Well, it doesn't really matter if you're
It
single
depends on
family.
where they are, too. I mean,
It depends on it's just the plants.
Exactly.
The plants survive or not.
Yeah, but again,
then
that's
just
only the
replace
requirement
it.
to have a report. That doesn't mean that they're not monitoring it throughout the site. Right? But they're gonna be on that site throughout the, May, June, July.
If you see all the plants are dead in May,
Yeah, you gotta replace it.
If they see that their spruce tree is dropping its needles in June, it's
oh
being
yeah, you might
replaced
not
the
plant,
next
you might
week.
not plant it in July, but you might wait till the fall. So yeah.
Right? I mean, so I don't want you to think that we're walking away from it and we'll take another look at it in October. That won't happen.
Well, just by comparison, and maybe it's a question, I mentioned that I'm doing 2 other restorations right now with Brad Holmes in a neighboring town with a very stringent conservation commission, because we're on camera. Good town to work in. And the restorations that we're doing are several acres in size. They're very substantial, several hundred plants in each one. They're requiring reports by the end of each growing season. So on installation, 2 reports each year, and then wanted the final certificate of compliance request, which would be after 2 full years. So just by comparison, that's what they're doing. And I think that meets the DEP guidelines, but I would defer to you on that, because I know you know.
I think beginning and the end of growing seasons each year is fine. I don't know how much people are gonna go back and check and make sure there's no invasive species in the, you know, in the months and stuff, but
That gets tricky.
then that's gonna get tricky when you hit October and it's like, oh wow, I got all these nasty plants and I can't apply this pesticide to kill them. So, I don't know what to say about that. So,
Yeah, right, you're ripping them out by hand.
you have to rip them out by
Yeah.
hand. The sooner you see it, the better, especially when you're dealing with some of the briars that I deal with in my backyard,
Or knotweed.
or knotweed, you know.
They're out just lighting a mess.
Yeah, yeah, so, I'm fine with doing beginning and ending. But over the course of the 2 years, you have 2 years to get 75% establishment.
And that is considered success.
Yeah.
Outside of.
Overall.
Overall, yes, outside of that 75%.
So not every plan has to
Yeah.
live.
Right.
Right.
But as soon as you notice something's happening, it behooves you to
Right.
fix it, because what if, 5 months later, this whole section dies, and you haven't, now you're behind.
And you need to identify why they didn't survive as well. Most of the times, these things don't survive because of a lack of water, but is it a pest? It needs to be eradicated from the area. Who knows? You're gonna find out.
Or is it too much water? Sometimes you get clay and soil and clay. I digress, sorry.
So we're gonna hold off on E then, and make a special condition? Nothing for F. I had all of G. What do we put down for G5 though, for a footage?
I wasn't
So there's
looking
really,
at
this, by definition, there's nowhere that you can
There's
put it.
nowhere you can put it.
Well, can't you just say 50 feet from the riverbank?
Yeah.
The lot's only 130
Yeah,
feet
well,
wide.
that's what I mean, it's,
Can you put the plan up? Yeah. Maybe we can see, maybe we can pick a spot. Is that like possible to say, this is where we want?
well, I think it probably, we should get Glenn's input if he's building
Yeah.
the house. We don't wanna say, put it there and then Glenn
Construction
says, well,
Well, that's what I mean, I'm not a construction person, so I don't know whether that's the way it works. You can tell them ahead of time.
I was gonna say, there's the 20-foot line right there.
yeah.
So, I don't know if you, Glenn, you want to take a look at this?
Yeah, what are you, I didn't see
This
the
is,
condition, so what do you
this is
got?
a condition about you can't stockpile within a certain amount of feet of.
What if you
In this
stockpile
case-
it where that asphalt is?
Stockpile back here?
That,
The basketball court?
Yeah.
where the asphalt,
Just say outside of 50 feet, right?
yeah.
There's,
This is 131 feet right here, so
Where's the old, what we think is
Basketball
basketball?
court, yeah, I mean, that looks ideal to me.
That's a lien area.
But-
What can you say stockpiling what the
You'd be
dirt?
stockpiling here, can you live with that?
because
I mean, the only issue that I have with that is getting machine, it's
It's a
the
lower-
furthest-
Yeah.
It's the furthest point on the lot, so, you know.
Where do you think practically you would want?
Right where the new driveway is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the same distance.
Same distance, it's just higher on the
Right.
I mean, I don't intend to stockpile
Too close.
a lot. We're not gonna stockpile a lot of dirt anyway.
Yeah.
It's not, it doesn't make sense on this, most of the stuff would probably be taken out.
Yeah, the site's too small.
I don't see the material being very good as far as, so.
Are you running new sewer and water, or are you just gonna pick up what's there?
Well, it's on the property, but we'll be running new lines and.
Yeah, I mean, that, when you dig in, just, you can stockpile on the side of the trench and backfill with whatever you wanna do there.
Yeah, so maybe this area up here is,
It'd be the easiest, I just don't want to have to, I mean, if it's springtime and we're trying to get out back and it's wet and, I'd rather not do that.
Yeah, no, that's
I'd rather
fine.
have something close to the street where we can just load and get out of there.
So how many
then
feet
you'll have
is
to back
that
a
from the
truck all
road?
the way back.
We'll just say G5,
Stay with
stockpile.
138, so straight up it would be like,
this is 131
At
feet
site
from
level.
here.
Okay.
So if you said This is approximately 50 feet right here.
Yeah.
If it's more than 50 feet, it's that area.
Well, like Paul was saying, just say, instead of how many feet, we'll just say stockpile at the site of the new driveway
Area.
Area.
Yeah, it'll be like the front, because, yeah.
Yeah.
There'll be a hole in the ground, and there'll be a foundation, and, yeah.
Of proposed new driveway?
Proposed new driveway, yeah.
That's for G5, right?
G5, yeah.
What about G6? Fueling, I mean, same thing, everything is
Same area.
facing with south, and you can't fuel any equipment up. So should we say,
Equipment must be a minimum of 50 feet from the wetland boundary, it says right now, so,
we'll just say the same area
yeah,
by the new driveway?
The easiest.
yeah, I mean, they're not gonna be refueling trucks out in the back.
I mean, honestly, we're gonna fuel the truck before they make it there.
Right.
I think the foundation and backfill, I don't anticipate really even having to do that more than
I
one
was
time
wondering
at most.
about that,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then H, what did I have for H?
What about
H,
G7?
Yeah, G7.
Yep,
well, yeah, I mean, that's, hopefully, that doesn't come up.
and we don't have a problem notifying you, because,
Well, you never know, you said that foundation on the
Yeah,
original
G size,
house is pretty
G7.
massive. I mean, you don't know
Oh,
where
I said all G, except I just have a question on G7.
Oh, sorry about that, yes, okay.
Could be asbestos in there for all you know.
Hold on, but you're right, you could be.
I mean, they used it years ago.
Yep, 100%.
Well, we have to do an abatement regardless before we take that.
Yeah. So basically, you know, anything in a second with that.
All right, so for
But I'm
H,
just saying,
for H, I have H2, H4, H5, H6, I had C, D, F, and G.
can I just ask for the H5?
Yeah.
And throughout, somewhere in through here, he talks about submitting the request for state compliance by certified mail. You don't care if we hand deliver it, obviously, right? I mean, I don't know if you want to cross that out, just with the understanding that you're not going to yell at us because you didn't deliver it by certified
Yeah.
mail. Okay.
Hand delivered.
Yeah,
But put it in the written.
Yeah.
yeah, it was certified mail, you find in all the old regulations, zoning, planning, all that stuff.
so why not just put a slash, hand delivered, certified, whatever
Or
works.
just deliver it. We
Yeah,
have
just
to
deliver
it.
it. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things, I think actually in the 63 talks about registered mail, which you don't even do anymore.
I mean, again, we're in the process of trying to upgrade a
Yeah.
lot of the old forms.
Well, just, yeah, just submit,
Yeah.
that's it. So
Submit.
delete by certified mail for H5. So like I said, H6, I had C, D, F, and G. H7, I just had C. Then I had H8. And nothing, I didn't have H9.
There's some conditions that will have.
Well, same thing, we can add it,
Yeah.
we can put it in H7.
That H8, I would suggest that same change we made to Lee Mann's, because the way it reads right now, if you read it in its vaguest way, in conjunction with the sale of the property within a resource area, the applicant, oh, no, I guess that's okay. It's talking about when Glenn sells it to the next guy, we'll have a letter that says the next guy are aware they'll say, that's fine. Some of the conditions I've seen in other places where, the way it's written, you have to do it every single time the property's sold for the next 100 years, which is impossible.
Why?
It's impossible to enforce and it's impossible for you to follow. I mean, you would never know when the property got sold, you know, it's just crazy. I had a suggestion in my letter that's coming to you in Groveland Street about what I think is more effective is when you put a notice in the deed, specifically refer to the recorded order of conditions. That helps. But honestly, a lot of buyers don't know. They're not educated to permitting in deeds and all that stuff. They just go in there with a check and they get the keys to the house and not sure. If they have an attorney, hopefully their attorney's saying, hey, just so you know, there's a drainage pipe on the left side of your property and there's an order of conditions, you can't go past there. You don't always know what happens 30 years from now, that's all.
And that's what happens when, and then we end up having enforcement orders being put on people because you decided to do something riverfront or.
Oh, and believe me, and you guys know, some people do it intentionally. Some people go out there and fill the wetlands and they know what they're doing, and that's wrong. But,
Yep.
how do we stop them? Well, wetlands regulations stop them.
Well, yeah, and having something where it is their responsibility, they did get it when they signed all the paperwork, it should have been explained to them.
Yeah.
50 years from now, someone's gonna own this house and they
It's
can't
just,
claim that, if it's there, then we can say, hey, you have this information just because you didn't read it.
yeah, it's just, that's the thing. In reality, I've been trying to figure out the most effective way to get that done, and it's difficult, because you don't know who the buyer is, you don't know who the buyer's lender is, and you don't know who the buyer's closing attorney is. None of us do. And it's just, we can write as much as we want and put it in here and record it to registry of deeds, and the 10 of us might be the only people who read it. Understood.
But
And if they
yeah.
don't submit the letter, what do you do? Is it a violation of the order conditions?
But there should be something there though, right? It should,
Yeah.
because 50 years from now, we can say, well, this happened and this was an order in perpetuity. Well, I didn't know about it. I don't
Right.
have it in any of my paperwork.
Right, that's,
So that becomes problematic for
Yeah.
us. And yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of people who don't read anything.
believe me, in all my purchase and sale agreements, I include reference to the order conditions, and all the deeds include a reference to the order, not all of them, some of them, orders of conditions. If there's been a certificate of compliance, we don't typically mention them, to be honest with you, even though there's conditions in every town that has perpetuity. It's not required for any reason for conveyance purposes. I'm sorry, I'm getting into the minutia again. We'll talk about this over a cup of coffee sometime.
Yes.
All right, so for I had I1, then I had I2, A and B. And then for special conditions, do we want to? We're doing a salt substitute?
No pesticides.
Well, that's already in there.
It's already in there.
Under H, 8B.
It's up at the top.
H7. So no salt substitutes? Well, no, salt substitutes. And then the second one would be the restoration. What was the square footage?
1095, 1,095 square feet.
Restoration. Huh? Yeah, I want to get this one done first, so 1,095 square feet restoration.
Is that where we put the language
Yeah,
about submitting the plan to get
Yeah.
approved?
Don't make me do it a third time.
Did somebody write that
We'll watch the tape.
I can come up with it again.
no, one of the special conditions should be 1,095 square foot restoration upon approval of plan. Review and approval of plan provided by the applicant. All right, and then the third one would be just to monitor the stream for any debris or sediment. And if you notice anything, make the appropriate changes. That's gonna be part of the restoration. Anybody have anything else to add?
Yeah, as long as it's not the stream monitoring program like.
No,
Just monitoring, yep, that's no problem.
Keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
No, because I mean, you could see silt come down the stream.
Yeah, right.
If you guys aren't doing anything over there, you see it, you might just call up and say, hey, this isn't from us.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, it'd probably behoove us to make sure we do that if it's not from us.
Yeah.
I've been stuck in that exact position
I have to.
with DEP on site.
I can tell you some stories, but again, that's a cup of coffee conversation.
Anything else?
So, as I understand it, we'll submit a restoration plan. If Lynn approves it, great, we move forward. If there's something to be tweaked, she'll let us know.
Yeah.
If it's a major issue, we put it on the agenda, which I don't think will happen. And when do the 63 things come into play?
After that plan.
Well, that'll be with that plan.
You know, when Lynn reviews that plan, she'll review the 63 conditions with it and send that back to us, in theory, with an approval. Right?
And then we can take a look at it.
Subject to the.
And if anything jumps out at us, we'll respond.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, just so we know how to get this, we have.
So we want to make a motion to approve the order of conditions for 48 Lincoln Street.
I'll make a motion to approve the order conditions for SE 084-0560.
Do I have a second?
No, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Great. Thanks for your patience, especially with me.
All right. Building permit and site visits. We already discussed the site visit, Gene, Tim and I did, and Alex did, at Myers Ave treatment plant. Tim did a site walk on on Monday, 85 Dale Street.
75?
75 Dale Street. To go over the construction schedule, they're gonna start work over there.
And that went well?
Yep. They brought in some additional erosion control just in case stuff breaks up. So they
Did you take pictures?
I don't know if he did or not. But I guess right now they cut some trees down. They're gonna get ready to install the culvert,
Okay,
the three-sided culvert.
okay.
I guess there was an issue with it. The fire department wanted something bigger, so because they wanted something bigger, they would, it was a longer lead time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So Tim's been in contact with them, and if anything changes, Mr. Montgomery's gonna reach out to them, just so we know what's going on.
Okay.
And that was it for site visits. No minutes to approve, correspondence. Yeah.
I get it.
You got this right here from zoning.
Grab that little clip and leave them down.
For a subdivision. I know there's some, I looked at the plans real quick, there are some, I think there's some buffer zone impact on it.
What is this for?
155 Birch Street.
Oh, is that next to,
Birch Street, isn't it?
Oh, this is just like that.
Runs from like North School, New England Art.
Yeah,
towards
yeah,
the-
yeah, that
Straight up.
little street where the Octagon House is?
You know where, you know where the rail trail is?
Yeah, yeah.
You know if you go to the end of, is that Monroe, right?
Monroe Street.
Monroe, yeah.
Right, I think if you take a quick right, it's somewhere over there.
Okay.
For the townies, it runs from New England Art to Fulton's Laundromat.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Fulton's one. I knew this.
So it looks like they want to be.
Counties, I grew up on Lincoln Street, so I don't know any of that stuff. That was a long bike ride.
So it looks like they're going to be.
They have to come before us.
What is?
For us.
It is big.
Not.
We don't know how to do this.
Well, it's not a question, it's a question of the land mass that you have so much more.
The subdivisions aren't as easy to put in anymore. There's no
Railroad
land.
tracks, like somewhere.
Okay, this is Bourdain.
Yeah, there's,
Railroad tracks right there.
Ouch. Oh, I don't know, what, right into a railroad track.
You have a copy of the photos, right?
Mass railroad tracks.
What's the rail trail, right?
Is it the rail trail?
Oh, is it the rail
Yeah.
trail? Oh, it is.
Rail track, rail trail.
Yeah. May I slide this over this way so we can take a look?
Yeah, here's the rest of the paperwork. Actually, I should probably take a look.
Someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Have a second?
For a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.